Welcome to the Carnivore Cast, the podcast focused on the carnivore diet and lifestyle, with practical advice from successful carnivores, citizen scientists, and top researchers. I'm your host, Scott Meslinski, and I'm here to speak with experts and experienced carnivores to get answers to your biggest and meatiest questions while helping you live your best life as a carnivore. Christopher Sontag has been on a weight loss roller coaster his whole life. He's gone from 350 pounds to 220 to 180, then back to 375 pounds, and today sits at 227 pounds thanks to carnivore. Through his zero-carb carnivore approach and fasting, Chris is finally healthy, happy, and following a more sustainable approach. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. It's great to be here, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, why don't you just tell us your story, from the beginning. How does someone go from 350 pounds and then go all the way down to 180 and back up? I mean, I'm sure there's a ton of color and great information to share with folks there.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, it was a crazy, crazy roller coaster. And it starts out since I was born. My entire childhood, I was the fat kid my entire life. I mean, unathletic, just I have no memories as a child of being nothing but just the fat kid. And it just all through grade school, and through my early years of being an adult, I got all the way to 350 pounds. And something needed to happen. And I tried all these fad diets, standard American diet, everything, diet pills, everything, and it wasn't working. I was losing 25, gain 30, lose 30, gain 40. It was just a roller coaster, and something needed to happen. And I just knew one thing: eating made me fat, so I decided just to not eat, and it really worked.
That's how you got into the fasting. And what was going on with doctors during this time? Family members, what were they saying to you?
They were all, my family members were all concerned for me. I've never been I was never the big doctor person. I've never really went to the doctor. I did when I was 19 and I had high cholesterol, and they put me on the statin. I took it for like 3 months and I stopped taking it. And it was just, yeah.
Wow. And so how did you come across fasting, and how did that work for you?
I never read nothing on fasting. I just knew eating made me fat, and I wanted to, and all the diets didn't work, so I decided just to not eat. And that was before I even read anything about fasting. So I just started fasting. I did maybe 3-4 meals a week. And, those were actually, I think about now, I was doing intermittent fasting with low carb then, because I was doing, salads and grilled chicken wraps, 3-4 meals a week during that fasting period. In 10 months, I lost, almost from 350 to 220, and 130 pounds just by fasting and doing that low carb then.
Wow. And then what happened next, Chris? What were you starting to experience? Were you feeling good? Were you gaining energy? What else was going on in your life?
Yeah, from what I can remember, I felt great, and I was happy with my body at 220, but I was very insecure about all this extra skin I had around my midsection. So I didn't know what to do about it. And then I went to a doctor, my primary doctor then, and he actually recommended me to a plastic surgeon, and I got a tummy tuck, believe it or not.
And did that help with the self-image and you being more comfortable?
It really did. They cut me from one side of my body, from my midsection all the way to the other, and they cut from the middle of that incision halfway up my chest and pulled the extra skin up and cut it off, pulled it back down, and gave me some look in the aftermarket belly button I got now. And I had these grenades hanging up beside me, these drain tubes, and for about 2 weeks to heal. And after that, I healed up and I kept fasting. And after all the extra skin was cut off and everything was healed up, I was ultimately 180 pounds. And I was thin and brittle and no muscle mass at all, but I felt confident for the first time in my entire life. I felt thin and I felt happy.
Yeah, that's great. And you were following a low carb diet and fasting then. Had you found out about low carb, or was that also something you just kind of stumbled upon by mistake?
people were talking about Atkins back then, but I really even knew what it was. I know people talked about Atkins, but I really never knew what it was. But I just did what everyone. I did what people are. Oh, you're doing the Subway diet, because believe me, I got chopped salad and a grilled chicken sandwich from Subway. That's all I had. 4 meals a week from Subway, and people are like, oh, you're doing the Jared diet. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I'm just trying to do my own thing, and it worked.
Yeah, that's great. And then what happened next, Chris? You're down to 180. You're brittle, but you're feeling better. You've had the tummy tuck.
Yeah. I was finally happy, and I was at confidence. I was, going out. I met my wife, and I fell in love with her, and we're still married to this day. Happy family. But I met her. We got married 6 months after we started dating, and I was happy. But the problem is, I got comfortable, and I lost all this weight, but I had no idea how to keep it off at all. I had no idea how to sustain it. And I didn't realize at first, but I was slowly gaining it back through the years. And after we had 3 children, 8.5 years later, I looked in the mirror and I was 375 pounds again.
Wow. And what do you lend credit to for that? Was that eating a lot more carbohydrates, reintroducing things to your diet? Did you stop the fasting?
Oh yeah. When I met my wife, I was happy. I was content. Everything went out the door. Everything I did before was out the door. I just started, living I guess you would say a regular standard life, standard American diet, and just overeating and stress, life, anxiety, and all that got to me. And I just ballooned myself back up to 375 pounds. And I was trying to do diets again, and they weren't working. And, I was just miserable. I could only imagine I had sleep apnea because I would snore like a train, and I was just, my joints hurt. I was out of breath walking upstairs. I was just, it was depressing.
Yeah, that's sad. But I imagine a lot of people listening, and just a ton of people in this country in general, can completely relate to your story, Chris. Tons of folks just find weight comes on over the years, especially with family obligations and work. And what did you do then? How did you turn it back around? What motivated you, and what got you on the path to getting healthy again?
Yeah, I owe all credit to my really good friend Dan, and he texted me out of the blue one day in April of 2017. I got a text message from him, and it was a link to a podcast about intermittent fasting. And he said, I'm doing this. I think you would benefit from it also. And I listened to that podcast about intermittent fasting, and it blew my mind. I'm like, I could do 12. I could fast for 16 hours a day and eat an 8-hour window. And I started intermittent fasting, but I did not change my diet whatsoever for this. For 4 months, I just did intermittent fasting, eating an 8-hour window every day for 4 months, and I lost 40 pounds.
Wow. So you're getting back down to the lower 300s then. Mm-hmm. So nowhere near your all-time low of 180, but still better. And do you know who this podcast was with? I'm just curious.
Yeah, her name was Jen Stevens.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So that was working well for you. And then you're cruising along. What happened next?
After I lost the initial 40 pounds, I felt like I should tell Dan, because I never told him this. And we're good friends, but back then we really didn't see each other that often. So we were more like, we talked through text message. We never really saw each other. I texted him out of the blue, and then I called him and I told him the good news, and he was ecstatic. He was happy for me. And, he actually invited me to go to the gym with him the next day. And the very next day I started going to the gym with him, and, we started, resistance training 3 days a week, and we still do it to this day.
That's awesome. And had you not worked out before?
I've never walked in a gym my entire life until that day I walked in there, and I was intimidated as hell. But I just did it.
Yeah, that's very brave of you, and I think a lot of folks probably feel that way. Trapped, scared, afraid of their own body, and going into a gym can be an intimidating environment for the first time. But that's great for you. I think, so were you doing resistance training, cardio? What did it look like?
Yeah, no cardio at all. Just resistance training, just lifting.
That's great. I think that's absolutely essential. And I definitely advocate that. And how did your body respond to that? How did you feel starting to lift weights?
I was sore the first couple mornings afterwards, working out the first couple days, but I felt great. And I work out fasted every day. And even then I was working out fasted with doing intermittent fasting. And I think it's really beneficial. I love it.
That's great. And how did your weight progress from there, combining the intermittent fasting with the lifting?
Well, great, because as soon as I started going to the gym, he's my friend Dan, he sent me an Audible book, Vinnie Tortorich, and I listened to that like twice in 1 week, and I was like, wow, no sugars, no grains, I can do this. And I mixed the keto approach with the intermittent fasting, and the weights just started shredding off.
Yeah, Vinnie Tortorich is awesome. I really like him. And did you get into his podcast as well? I think it's called Fitness Confidential.
Oh yes, I got hooked on it.
That's great. There's a lot of awesome information on there, and he has a lot of good guests, and his personality is hilarious. For folks who don't know Vinny, they should definitely go check that out.
Oh yeah.
And what did you learn from there? So you're getting better, you're fasting, you're going to the gym, no sugars, no greens. Sounds like you're kind of cruising at that point. How did your weight respond?
Oh, it was shredding off, Scott. It was shredding off. And I started messing with the no sugars, no grains, because then I heard Sean Baker on Vinny's podcast, and I was like, man, I can do this carnivore thing. It sounds awesome, because I was already doing the no sugars, no grains with a carnivore approach to it. I was eating just real little vegetables, and I'm like, man, I'm basically doing a carnivore diet to begin with, so I might as well just stick with it. And I started doing carnivore with intermittent fasting, and I was really benefiting from that. I saw lots of progress from that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I love hearing how you just kind of discovered things on your own and jumped right into them. It's almost like not having a lot of answers or education around health and nutrition made you more open to these things. And I'm sure that there were also times where you discovered things that didn't work. Can you name some of those things that, you're like, okay, I'll give this a try. This sounds good. Before, no sugars, no grains, fasting, keto. What are some of the failed approaches you tried?
I tried the vegetarian thing. That was not for me. I'm not a vegetables person. Well, I like some vegetables, but I'm not a big vegetable guy. I couldn't do that. I tried diet pills. I was desperate before I did anything, man. Before I messed with the NSNG and the intermittent fasting, I was desperate and nothing was working. It was miserable.
Yeah, I totally understand that and sympathize. And what changed when you started going carnivore? Did you notice incremental improvements there?
Oh, definitely. I mean, the major thing was, I don't know if it was, I don't remember if it was during my time with just the keto or until I switched to carnivore, but I always dealt with anxiety attacks all the time. And I tell you what, throughout that time period, I started having less anxiety attacks, and then no anxiety attacks, no anxiety whatsoever. My snoring went away. I can only imagine I had sleep apnea before, but I guess that was gone. I just felt like $1 million. I had energy. I have full of energy all the time.
Yeah. And how was your weight progressing? Where were you after no sugars, no grains? And then once you started carnivore?
Let me see. I think after I dropped the 40 and I started the NSNG, I lost maybe 40 more. And then I started with the carnivore, and then the weights just started shredding off. And then after I started doing carnivore with intermittent fasting, I started messing with it, and I started shortening that intermittent fasting window until the January of this 2019, January 1st, I'm like, I'm going to switch to OMAD, 1 meal a day. And that's what I've been doing now ever since then. And yeah, I'm down to 227 now, just doing 1 meal a day. And people think I'm crazy, 1 meal a day. But the thing is, I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry throughout the day. I mean, by the time I get home, I have a good appetite. But, leading up to that, I'm not really hungry. And just drink black coffee, iced black coffee in the mornings. I'm addicted to these Deer Park, called Simply Bubble, carbonated waters and unsweetened tea. And that's all I have during the day. And I have nice juicy ribeye at night, or, a burger in the skillet. And, I'm content.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you have a lot of body fat to get through, your body's able to mobilize more of it. So I think that makes a ton of sense. For other people who have tried fasting and they get really hungry, I think it's important to listen to your hunger.
Yeah.
But that's awesome that worked for you. And at this point, Chris, were you tapping into any of the carnivore groups online or on Facebook? How were you getting information and ideas to try new things and tweak it?
Yeah, I joined the World Carnivore Tribe on Facebook, the page, the group. That's a really cool group. I like that a lot. And, I listen to Sean Baker's, HPO podcast. I like that. It's like carnivore based as well. Your podcast, it's so beneficial. All the doctors and people you have on your podcast, Dr. Drew, I think he's carnivore now. I listen to him on the Swole Patrol podcast. There's so many outlets now that you can find information out, especially in podcasts, about the carnivore diet. And I just listen and take it all in. My mind's like a sponge now. I suck it all in, and I try it all, and nothing's really failed so far. Everything's just working. I love it.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I haven't heard of Dr. Drew. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Swole Patrol. Interesting.
Oh yeah.
And what is sort of, you kind of hinted at it, but just to get more into the details, Chris, how much meat are you eating on an average day? You said ribeyes, burgers, steaks. What exactly is on your plate?
Usually I'll take probably a 12-ounce ribeye, and I'll just salt and pepper and put in my air fryer, or I'll put it in my skillet and just cook it till about medium. And I melt some Kelly Gold butter in the microwave in a little bowl, and I just dip my steak in butter and eat that. That's usually one of my go-to meals. And other nights I'll just about a 3/4 pound burger in a cast iron skillet I'll cook it in beef tallow, and then I'll put 2 slices of cheese on top of that, and I'll just fork and knife and eat that. And I'm content with those 2 meals. Are usually my go-tos.
Yeah, that's awesome. And have you found it to be something that works with your family life as well?
Yes. It's difficult because I'm not going to force this diet on my kids or my wife whatsoever.
Sure.
But they're very supportive of me. So they'll have their meal and I'll have mine, and they respect what my wife respects what I like to eat, and she's fully supportive, even though she doesn't do it, but she's supportive of it, and I love her for it. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's so critical to have people around you be supportive and not questioning you when you're already sometimes questioning yourself. That can be an uphill battle. And have you found experimenting with anything like cutting out dairy, stuff like that? Is that something you're interested in?
Oh, definitely. During my keto early stages of carnivore, I noticed like plateaus, and I was thinking to myself, what do I eat a lot of that's causing me to have this? Because the great part about it is when you're keto or carnivore, the amount of foods you eat is small. So you can figure out what's causing your plateaus, And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I do eat a lot of macadamia nuts and cheese at nighttime. Maybe I'll just cut that out. And sure enough, I cut it out, and the weight started peeling off again. So, I found myself especially when I was doing the intermittent fasting still, at nighttime before I went to bed, I would sit down, watch TV, and I'd have a snack bowl, and I thought it was okay to eat it. I was eating a couple pepperonis, some cheese cubes, and some macadamia nuts, I think that was affecting my progress. So, I was set on the goal. So, as much as I wanted to have a snack, I just cut that out because, I was more focused on the goal than trying to satisfy my need for a snack,
Yeah, I hear you. I know exactly what you mean. And Chris, do you incorporate any organ meats or supplements or anything like that?
Organ meats? No, I have not tried it yet. I'm I'm intrigued. I don't know. I see pictures on the World Carnivore Tribe, and I'm like, man, that some of them just don't look that appetizing to me. I don't know. I gotta try it. I think I need to try it.
Yeah, it's tough. I've tried a million different ways to cook liver and I can't eat it plain, but I get the US Wellness Meats liverwurst, or I was taking a liver supplement for a while just off Amazon, which was pretty decent, but I'm still not convinced that you need them. So.
Yeah, I'm definitely willing to try it though. And supplement wise, every day I take multivitamin, I take vitamin D, and I take magnesium.
Got it. Cool. Yeah, I'm also a magnesium fan, and I take vitamin D too. I think those are important.
Oh yeah.
And Chris, what are you kind of looking forward to going forward? Like, what are your goals health wise? How do you want to sort of spread what you've learned and help others?
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, my goals. I've already crushed some goals. See, my first goal was 250, and then my next goal now is 225. But I'm probably there because I haven't weighed myself since last week. I don't like get on the scale every day, but I was 227 last week, so I can only imagine I may be at my goal now. But I'm half scared to get on the scale and look. But I think I'm at my goal. But my next goal was 199. I want to get under 200, and I think I'll be satisfied there. But we'll see where my body takes me because I'm not gonna, I'm gonna do what my body wants to do. So, I mean, I'm still gonna keep lifting, but if wherever my body takes me, I'll let it take it to. So, but,
yeah. And do you have any friends or colleagues or, family members who have noticed you eating this way? And, what have they said about it? What do you tell them?
Clients definitely, because I'm a barber and I have people I see, monthly, usually I have some customers I see every week and they don't really notice the difference, but clients I cut their hair like once every month, once every 2 months, they've been coming in and they're asking me questions like, are you sick? Like, are you okay? Like they might think I'm like, yeah, because I guess they see the weight shred off, I tell them like, no, I'm 100% healthy. I'm just, taking care of myself and I don't call it a diet. Because diets, like I've heard other podcasts, people talk about it makes sense. Like a diet is something you do for a short period of time, then you get to your goal and you stop. This is like a lifestyle change. Like I just changed what I eat and, changed my life and approach life a different way now. And this is how I eat and this is how I take care of myself.
Yeah, I love that. Diet definitely has a different connotation.
Yeah.
And, emphasizes restriction. So would you say, Chris, that you're, satisfied on this type of diet? You feel good, you have good energy?
Oh, yes, sir. I feel 100% better than I've ever felt my entire life. And I feel this is so sustainable. I love it. And yeah, I have no cravings for sweets or anything. I mean, my kids eat, standard American diet still. And, they eat their cereal in the morning. As much as I used to love cereal, I just don't even have a craving for any of it anymore. Even milk. I don't even crave anything anymore. It's wild. I'd rather have a big juicy steak,
Yeah, I'm totally with you. That's awesome. Chris, well, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? The platform is yours. If there's anything else you want to talk about or, a message for someone who was in your shoes a year or two ago, is there something you would want to say to them?
Yeah, man. It's not the end of the world. I mean, when you think, it's not the end of the world. I mean, you have 2 feet and a heartbeat, man. Just learn, find, what works for you and just stick to it. I mean, I found what works for me is definitely this, and I love it 100%.
Yeah, you're a changed man, Chris, and I'm incredibly inspired by your story. And I think this will inspire a ton of other people because it's so real. And you've been so open and generous about sharing it. So I really appreciate that.
You giving me this platform to share my story on. I hope I hope to help as many people as I can. And another thing, I think it's great to have, a workout partner to have accountability. And like I said, my friend Dan, who turned me on to this way of life, I owe so much to him, and we hold each other accountable. We go to the gym together 3 days a week. And, if if he's running late, I'll bust his balls. If I'm running late, he'll bust my balls. I mean, we hold each other accountable, and I think you really need that sometimes. I know I need it. I don't know, not everyone needs it, but I need it. And it really helps for me, and I owe him the world. And he's carnivore too, and he's excited for me being on here, and it's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sounds like you've got a really great friend there. And I think, accountability is huge. And for folks who don't have someone in person who they can keep them accountable, start a blog. That'll make you accountable. Go into the World Carnivore Tribe, talk to people. They'll keep you accountable, and they can help you work through your struggles. And people are open there. And, if you slip up or you're confused, they'll help you. It's a very welcoming community.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely, man.
Great, Chris. Well, this has been a pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on.
Same here, man.
Do you want to share any place that folks can find you, or anything like that?
Oh, definitely, man. Yeah. I share food and stuff all the time on my Instagram. It's I'm the Carnivore Barber. Carnivore Barber. That's my tag on Instagram. Chris Sontag on Facebook. Me and my friend Dan are actually thinking about starting our own podcast. I think we're really going to start talking about soon. I think we're going to name it the Carnivore Dads Podcast. And I think we're going to do that. So,
I love that. You absolutely should. And if I can help, let me know, please.
Oh, I'd love to have you on, Scott. You're the man.
Thanks, Chris. Well, I'll link to all that in the show notes, and hope you have a great night, Chris. Thanks.
Oh, you do the same, my friend. Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Carnivore Cast. If you enjoyed this episode, please review on iTunes. It really helps us out, and share it with a friend. What questions would you like answered, or who would you like to hear from in the carnivore research community? You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Carnivore Cast, or go to carnivorecast.com. You can also email me at info@carnivorecast.com. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it carnivore.